That's us now, Claire. I'll just disappear.
Amazing. Thanks, Stuart. Hello, welcome everybody to the Books That Help webinar. It's really lovely to see so many of you here this evening. This is a webinar that's going to be about books that help, a bit about the mentorship which opens this evening, which is very exciting. And we have a special guest, Lucy Faulkner, who was last year's mentee. So I thought it would be nice to have a little Q&A about the mentorship to answer any pressing questions and generally just to get excited about picture books with social issues at their heart and picture books generally. So for those of you who are unaware, my name is Claire Helen Welsh. I am a picture book writer, a Write Mentor course tutor, and I founded Books That Help just over a year ago. I think it was in July or August last year. And I think to sum myself up, I would say I get bored easily. I love being busy. I love picture books, and I love helping people. So I was an early years teacher for over 10 years. And when I left teaching, I was really keen to be able to continue to help people on their journeys, people writing. And I was lucky that I got in contact with Stuart, who has very kindly set up this evening and is going to help with the admin for this mentorship. Stuart, if you don't know, is from Write Mentor. He's an all-round amazing person. And I do some tutoring for the Write Mentor hub. So I had this idea that it would be fun and important actually, to raise awareness of picture books that are doing really important things. And I felt like there was a missed opportunity to just spread the word about these outstanding books that are doing an important job in quite a challenging world at times. So I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a place where I could review books that I thought were amazing and to organise them by category. So if you haven't found it already, there is a website called www.booksthathelp.co.uk where I review books by category, and they all fit. They're all social issue picture books that fill a gap and help readers hopefully find hope in the world. That's ultimately what I think Books That Help will do. As I said, I was a teacher and I really love helping people achieve their dreams. So I thought it would be nice to start a mentorship to help other people who are also passionate about social issue picture books, which is where and how the mentorship was born. I was already working for Write Mentor anyway, and I knew I really liked working with the writers. And I approached the Tiger Press and asked if they would be interested in sort of working in partnership. And very excitingly, Terry Emerson, who is senior editor at the Tiger Press, said that he would love to be a part. So the mentorship kind of works like this. You're open to submit at the end of this webinar, and the submissions close on the 31st of December. And you can submit one picture book that fulfills the sort of social issue kind of role or purpose. Harry's going to help shortlist one text from one person. And using the feedback that he gives, there will be 5 virtual sessions with myself, helping to shape that picture book into a commercial. It's just in the best shape it could be, so that it can go on to submission. And excitingly, Little Tiger said they would have a first look at the story. So all you have to do is submit a picture book text, maximum of 800 words, and include a paragraph about yourself and why you think this is such an important picture book that needs to be in the world. It could be any kind of social issue picture book. And this is why I think picture books are so amazing, because the diverse range that you can do and tell a story. It could be a funny story, like something like Barbara Throws a Wobbler or The Glamour Llama. It could be lyrical, more like The Forgettery. It could be high concept. It could even have a sort of non-fiction narrative element running through it. It might be about a topic that is a perennial theme for children, like friendship or love or loss. Or it might be filling a particular gap in the market, something that we haven't seen before. Ultimately, just tell us why you think it's a really important story that readers need to have. To give you a sort of rough timeline, today we're on the 14th of November, so we have the webinar. Submissions open this evening. We're going to be reading in January, and then I'm hoping Perry and I can announce the 20 or by February, hopefully, maybe even sooner. And then mentorship will start. So that's the virtual sessions, and they can be, we're quite flexible, so it could be weekly, monthly. We can sort of go as and when, depending on what your commitments are. and we'll be working on the text that you submit and more generally on other kinds of picture book sort of skills and craft. So you can apply, you learn to other stories, not just the one that you submit to the mentorship. So you don't have to sort of hear me talk for too long. Very excitingly, we have Lucy Faulkner here, who was last year's mentee. So I'm going to stop sharing now and invite Lucy just to talk a little bit about how she found the mentorship, to share some tips. And if you've got questions, please do add them into the chat because we can have a look at those as well. But Lucy, I just firstly wanted to say, firstly, congratulations. And I know I've said congratulations to you before, but not just on achieving the mentorship in the first place, but how hard you work. I can't actually see Lucy anymore. Is she still there? Lucy has disappeared from my screen.
It's Claire, it says that the host has stopped my video. I think it's because my Zoom just cut out and I've just come back in. Sorry. I don't know what's going on with my tech tonight, but I just keep cutting out and I don't know why. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. We can hear you, so that's really good. So I can still ask some questions. Really, Lucy, what I wanted to start off by saying was congratulations. And you worked so hard, over we sort of did over a good 6-month period, didn't we? And we worked on your initial story, which was Dung Beetle Doug, which was a rhyming story, Perry was super impressed with your rhyme, had environmental themes and a really interesting main character. But you also applied all the things that we talked about in our sessions to lots of other stories. And so I know that you've been preparing a submission package and you're on submission at the moment to Aidance. So and I'll just do a very quick applause for you because I think you were a brilliant first mentee and we were really proud that you submitted and really happy that you've gained so much from this. So let's share a bit more about the mentorship for those who don't know what it's about already. So can you tell us, Lucy, some of the things that you learned from the mentorship?
Oh, so much. I mean, I learned a lot about just the craft of picture book writing. I mean, we had sessions on voice and character development and plotting. I mean, I'm 100% a plotter now since your teaching on the mentorship. And that was just fantastic because it's one-to-one. You just tailored all of the lessons to what sort of I needed, which was really, really helpful. So I felt like my writing came on leaps and bounds as a result of that. You were able to identify what I needed to work on and help me do that, which was fantastic. I mean, you gave me sort of really in-depth critiques of my writing as well. And what was really nice about that as well was that I didn't just receive a critique, I then got a chance to actually talk about it with you, which was brilliant as well. And then we could talk about how to develop that story and sort of different ideas and how they would work. So that was really, really helpful. And then, of course, I had feedback from a real life editor at Little Tiger, which is like what all aspiring writers just absolutely, dream about. So that was just fantastic. It was really great to hear Perry's feedback on my writing and on my ideas as well. So that was really, really helpful. And you showed me how to put together a submission package, which is something I had absolutely no clue about. So I learned how to choose stories that would work well together in a submission and how to write a query letter and how to approach all of that, which was really helpful. And I was able to sort of glean a few industry insights as well, because it's really hard sort of being on the outside looking into this really mysterious industry and wondering what people are looking for and how the market's going and things. So just to have somebody who's so embedded in the world of children's publishing was really helpful, and I learned a lot about the industry generally as well. Yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, well, you worked really hard, so I'm not going to take away from that. But I also enjoyed working with you on critiques and the bouncing ideas of story. It's something that I really enjoy doing anyway. It was an absolute pleasure to work with you, Lucy. But I'm really pleased that you taught so much. We crammed a lot in, didn't we, into our 6 months?
Yeah, we really did. Yeah, very efficient.
Do you think there was either an unexpected thing that you weren't expecting that you learned from the mentorship, or like a really good thing, like the best thing that you took away from our time together?
I think aside from sort of the teaching about writing, learning about how to write better, I think one of my big takeaways was probably about goal setting, really, because I was quite new to the world of children's writing generally, and you at the beginning of the mentorship were able to help me think about what my goals should be for the mentorship, and then at the end going forward from the mentorship, and that was really helpful. You helped me to sort of come up with a realistic and achievable goal, which was to create a submissions package and send it off. And I think I definitely learned the importance of accepting that there's a long road ahead and being realistic in what you're going to achieve over the course of 6 months or whatever it was. So it was really nice to be able to sort of set a goal and then at the end of the mentorship say, I've achieved this goal, and that's something that felt such a long way off, and I'm really pleased with it. Yeah.
That's a really good point, Lisa, isn't it? Because I'd love to have a magic wand and give a mentee a publishing deal, and if I was a publisher I would try my best, but it is important to have goals and to look at what success is like, and then feel positive and encouraged by everything that you've achieved, because we did, as I say, cram a lot in. So are there any tips for people who are applying that you could share?
So definitely look at the Books That Help website and really understand what a book that helps is, and understand the spirit of what the initiative is, I think, because this is a real passion project for you, isn't it, Claire? Like it's absolutely what you believe in, and you have such a passion for books with messages that will make children's lives better, really. So I think have a look at the website, understand what a book that helps is, and then really think about something you're passionate about, and think about what you want your message to be, and make sure that that is really clearly delivered in your story. Do you think that's?
I think so, yeah. Generally that's good advice, whether you're whatever kind of picture you're writing, is having some kind of clear purpose or sort of idea or takeaway.
Yeah.
Be simple, aren't they, picture books? But I guess in a sort of social issue picture book, it's even more important to make sure that you sort of you hit home, you make sure it's clear in your mind what it is that you want to say, and make sure it's across to your reader as well. I think that's good advice.
And I think I would definitely recommend sharing it with someone before you send it off. Find a critique partner if you don't have one already, someone who's not so good a friend that they're just going to tell you it's wonderful no matter what. So get some feedback on your text and make sure it's as polished as possible, because I think you do want to see something that's not perfect, obviously, because you want to work on it, but something that's good quality.
Yeah, I as a published writer still share lots of my texts with critique partners, and I get lots. My first drafts are usually quite shocking, so I think sharing with somebody else is always just gives yourself the best shot to show, and to hone the text and make it, give it the best chance possible.
And then I think just be clear about what you want your message to be, and what the takeaway is from your book, and but be yourself. If you're a poetic lyrical person, if you're a funny rhyming person, do all of that, because any kind of book can be a book that helps, can't it? But just write something that you're passionate about in the way that you want to write.
Because I think you can always tell, can't you, if someone's writing something that's really important, it means something to them. Somehow some kind of magic works and it comes through into the words, and the care that's been put together. So yeah, that's all good, very good tips, I think, Lucy. Yeah, brilliant. So tell us a bit more about how you got into writing. How long had you been writing for before you applied for the mentorship?
Probably about a year. So I wrote my first children's story on the note section of my phone while I was up all night feeding my second. I think with my first, I spent all night Googling how to make a baby sleep, and with my second, I just knew that was futile. So I started writing stories, which is probably a better use of my time. And I'd had a really nice day in the woods with my goddaughter, and we'd been finding these little acorn cups and pretending they were from a fairy party and finding fairy swimming pools. And I just wrote this story on my phone and I'd made it rhyme, and I was so proud of myself. And then I started writing more of these little stories for children that I knew and my daughter. And I thought they were absolutely brilliant, and I printed them out with a few pictures of these children. I look back on them now and think, oh gosh, the scansion was all over the place. There was no character art. The plot was, complete disaster. They were absolute rubbish, but they were how I started, so they're still quite close to my heart. So that's how I started writing stories, and then I decided I wanted to learn how to do it properly. So I enrolled at City Lit and did the introductory course, which was with Andrew Wheel, and then I did the advanced picture book course with you. And then a friend of mine went to a farming festival and she did a dung beetle safari, and she came back raving about dung beetles and how they were these amazing unsung environmental heroes. And I thought, I'm going to write a story about dung beetles. And I wanted it to be a story that sort of counted, our sort of society's obsession with beauty and celebrity. And so whilst it was kind of a bit silly and a bit rhyming and full of poo, the message was that, everybody has value and everyone is of equal importance in society. And then I submitted that this time last year, and yeah, that's it.
That's how it began. There's a lot in the Dung Beetle Doug story, isn't there? Because you've got an interesting main character. You've got the poo, obviously, which is a winner for some. And then there's the environmental themes, the unsung heroes of our environment and eco themes, but also, like you say, the sort of the issue of judging by appearances. So you've managed to cram a lot into your lovely rhyming text. It was, no mean feat, and very well done. I saw a question on there asking why, what stood out about Lucy's submission. And I think it's probably all those things. The fact that Lucy managed to write an exceptional rhyme, and Perry was particularly impressed with your rhyming voice, which is not easy to do for those of you who know who writing rhyme, and that you'd managed to intertwine funny humour with a light touch message, which wasn't too preachy, which was sort of through the action sort of unfolded. And also you had themes of environment in there, so there was a lot all crammed together in one text. So yeah, you did very well. There was another question about did it have a message or was it pure fun? So in this instance, it was both. Lucy managed to sort of balance the humour with the message as well. 2 messages, in fact. So what else am I going to ask you? Have you got any more general advice for people who want to get into picture books? Because I can only offer one mentee a place this time. I'd love to be able to do more, but any other advice for people who are watching that maybe don't want to submit or don't make the shortlist?
So I think for me, the most important thing has been good critique partners, because you need somebody who will give you honest feedback on your writing, but you also need friends who are going to encourage you, because it's quite hard work, and you want someone who can celebrate the small wins and the big wins, but also sort of commiserate the not wins and kind of spur you on. And I don't think that anybody on the outside has any idea how difficult it is. And the number of friends I've got who are like, didn't you write a book like 2 years ago? Why isn't it in Waterstones yet? I'm like, oh, if only it was that easy, guys. So it's really nice to have someone to share the journey with. I think it's important to understand that writing is a craft that you learn and hone, and that you need to do things to improve. And there are so many things out there. There are so many courses and mentorships and critiques that you pay for, brilliant organisations like Scooby and Write Mentor, but they all cost money. And I mean, some people may be able to do it all. I certainly can't. I'd love to be doing more all the time. So I think it's important to think about where you are on your writing journey at any given moment, and really target your budgets accordingly, according to what you think you need. And there are loads of free things that you can do as well. Like, blogs, Picture Book Den is such a great resource. Podcasts, there's this great podcast called Story Mix, Craft and Conversation that I listen to with Jasmine Roberts. That's Richards. That's great. And I recently discovered this new one called Island of Brilliance. Island of Brilliance with Frank Cottrell Boyce and Nadia Shireen. And it's just, they have these authors and it's just like stepping into this lovely world of picture books for an hour, and you pick up so many sort of tips that way. And also following publishers agents on social media as well. Caroline Wakeman Agency and Darlie Anderson do these writing tips once a week, I think on a Tuesday and Wednesday, can't remember which one's which. Well, they'll just put a tip about sort of writing craft or how to write a great synopsis or something that they may be looking for in particular. And then obviously opportunities like this. So yeah, just look around for anything that you can do that isn't going to break the bank, and just read loads. Go to the library and just read and read and read. Yeah, I don't think I've got any more than that.
I think there's lots of things to take away there, and yeah, I'm going to check out some of those podcasts too. But I mean, when I first started writing, which was 2013, I joined the SCBWI, who I found by accident, but there wasn't a lot out there, and now there is an enormous amount of information that you can find accessibly online, and maybe even close to where you are. I really love the takeaway of having critique group to celebrate the highs and lows with, because yeah, for writers at all stages of their career, there's definitely ups and downs, and having people who understand that is really important. Brilliant. Okay. People want to ask any other questions, do add them into the chat. Lucy and I are going to share some of our favourite books that help, and then we'll come out and do a Q&A. I have where did I put it? This one here. I read one that I have reviewed today for Books That Help, which is The Dodo Who Dreamed She Could Fly. And I'd seen it, and when I finally got my hands on it, I wasn't sure what I would think of it, but I was super impressed. Again, it's a lovely rhyming story, excellent scansion. This is from Catherine Emmett, who's also a Write Mentor course tutor. The pictures are lovely, bright and colourful. Claire Powell, brilliant sort of popping yellow and pinks. But I think what I loved the most about it, other than, again, another interesting character, a bit like a dung beetle, something that you don't see lots of, a dodo, was the fact that the takeaway was just pitch perfect for the readership. It was delivered through action. It wasn't at all preachy. And I'll just read you one of the stanzas on here, which is something that Delilah's dad says to her when she's about to give up on her dream. He smiled. Sometimes others aren't able to see the things we might do and the things we might be. Well, that's why you mustn't go measuring you by what others think and what others do. So I just think the heart in this is beautiful. And there are some page turns. And yeah, and even at the last line got me as well. It was a really well done message that was universal. So I guess, as I said, when I sort of quickly changed my presentation, I think my tips would be to either think of a universal perennial topic that comes up again and again for children, like perseverance, and find a new way of doing it. So dodos, for example, which is what I think has done really well in here. So my tips would be, if you're doing that kind of thing, to make sure you've looked in bookshops, in libraries, online, and make sure that you're doing something different or saying something different from the theme that you've chosen, or to choose something that is new. So when I first published The Tide, which is illustrated by Ashton Lindsay, there were no other picture books on dementia. So although the text is quite quiet, it was doing something new. So you could find a gap in the market, which is another way of going about finding a commercial books that help idea. Because I guess we are balancing the book that we want to be in the world with a book that a publisher wants to buy, and obviously publishing is a business, so we do have to think a little bit about the market as well. Lucy, did you have some books that help that you wanted to share?
I've got hundreds. I'll follow your Catherine Emmett with this Lou Fraser and Mark McKinley book, The Viking Who Likes Icing. And again, it's just so much fun to read. Brilliant fun rhyme, and it's also got this lovely last line, the happiness comes when you just be yourself. And I always love the last line of a Lou Fraser book. They're always amazing. But the reason I love this one so much is that I have a daughter who is 6 who is not into organised sport at all. She's very little, and she's not as fast as the other children. She's not as strong as the other children. She just doesn't like sport, but she's a wonderful baker. She loves baking, and she does it brilliantly. She takes it very seriously. And when I picked up this book, I thought, oh my goodness, Lou Fraser has written this for my child. And I think that's such an amazing thing, because there are so many children actually who don't enjoy sports day, find sports day a really difficult day. And I feel like she's seen those children and written them a really lovely book. So I really love that one.
I love the idea that you felt like it was written for you.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic credit to Lou and to, who's the illustrator of that book?
Mark McKinley.
Mark McKinley, yeah. Well, since we've had 2 rhyming picture books, more on the sort of action-packed side, I will choose a more lyrical one. What have I got here? I've got 2 here that I guess aren't immediately quite so fun. This one is called Rabbitiness, which is a book about loss, which is very, very short on word count, but very different. A lovely book if you haven't seen it. I'll just read the blurb. This is a story of a very special rabbit. He enjoys doing rabbity things, but he also loves, well, unrabbity things. His boundless creative talent is a source of joy and inspiration. But when Rabbit suddenly disappears, no one knows where he has gone, and his friends are desolate. As it turns out, Rabbit has left behind some very special gifts. So a beautiful portrayal of loss through creativity. It's a really nice one. Again, not a rhyming book, but still very carefully crafted words. This is 2 Places to Call Home, Jess Rose and Phil Earle. This is a book about a girl called Florrie who has 2 of everything, 2 brothers, 2 great parents, 2 cuddling pets. But 2 isn't always the magic number, because now she has 2 homes. And so it's a book, for children in the middle of a divorce or a separation. And it mixes domestic with fantasy, which is quite a nice combination. And it's very empowering for the main character. So although lots of things are happening to Florrie, she gets to take control and help her parents as well. So that's a nice thing to mention, I think, in the books that help, is to make sure that there's still agency and empowerment for children. Because ultimately we want to give hope. And one way of doing that is to show children that they, although things are happening to them that can be quite overwhelming and difficult, they can still action and make change and decisions that affect things positively. Another one, Lucy?
Yeah, so I mean, you've just shown books that deal with quite big things that might happen in a child's life, but I just love this one. This one makes me laugh out loud every time I read it. And because this isn't about a big event, this is just about everyday life with a young child. And I think it's hilarious for the child and for the parent reader, because you just see the mother's face just getting more and more grim as the story goes by. And it's just about a child who's having the worst day, like they just do sometimes. And I saw that egg, I can't eat that. And I mean, this spread makes me laugh out loud every time. On the way home, we met the lady who lives next door, and she said that Bob was the sweetest thing she'd seen all day. And then she said, "And how is Bella?" I was a long way behind, so I had to shout, "I have a rotting foot." And it's just like, you can just picture it with your own child, isn't it? It's so brilliant. And whilst it's hilarious, the takeaway is really clear and really lovely and really important. And that is that actually we all have grumpy days. But at the end of that grumpy day, someone will tuck us in and still love us. And that's a really important message for a young child whose emotions are just all over the place, probably for no real reason.
Such a good book. I absolutely love that one too. And I didn't know which ones you're going to bring, but actually we're covering quite a lot of things about books that help just by the books that we've shared. 2 things that occur to me with that choice where you said there can be books that help about really big, serious, difficult issues, you know, from war to loss, to divorce. But they can also be smaller conflicts that are still really important for children. And a good thing to do probably is to look at the books that help cite and see, because some of them are just about kindness, you know, and friendship. They're not all big issues, but maybe they're big to children. The important thing is that they're relatable to a child, because we want to keep our reader in our mind when we're making these books. And the other thing that occurred to me was just the range in voice. So we looked at 2 books that were rhyming, and then I picked 2 other books that were in prose. And that is a first person book, isn't it? So there is no right or wrong way to do the books that happen. I think probably on a case by case basis, experiment with tense and narrator and point of view until you find the perfect way to tell your story.
Yeah. And can I show this one, Claire? This
Yeah.
is one of yours. But I think that this one is so clever because it has hit that gap in the market. Like, every parent of a young child has a nightmare in the summer when the evenings are suddenly light and the children can see the sun outside and they just don't want to go to bed because it's still the daytime, the sun's still out. So I think that's a really good example of a book that helps a parent to sort of solve a problem with their child by explaining in just a really lovely and informative way about why there is sunshine at bedtime. And I mean, the illustrations in this book, Sally's illustrations, you just want to print them out and frame them and put them on the wall, don't you? They're so beautiful. So I think that's a really good gap in the market one. I was delighted when I found that. I was like, that is exactly the book I need.
Thanks, Lucy, for sharing that one. And I agree about Sally Ann's art. She is incredible. Yeah, she really is. And she's, especially the flying scene. I was like, wow, I feel like I'm actually. Okay, let's have a look at some of the questions that we've had come through, and then we can always come back to some more books that help if we need to, or if we would like to. Let's have a look. So Kerry had a question about the submission package that we put together. Did we show a variety or similar styles? So we went for variety, didn't we? So Lucy is a great writer of rhyme, but you also write in prose. And so we sent Doug funny rhyming, but we also sent lyrical prose and some more sort of more poetic kind of picture books as well. And then and you had obviously, I think the thing that runs across all your books were the themes of like narrative non-fiction. Would you agree, Lucy, that you were writing from? I mean, as a teacher, I would love all of your books because I felt like they would be springboards into something that was specific to you, that sort of ran across all your texts. You had different voices for different subjects.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. But I think I tend to be sort of I tend to get ideas from sort of watching Planet Earth or reading something about a polar bear or a dolphin. I saw this article about a dolphin shouting. I thought, wow, how interesting that a dolphin would shout. Why would a dolphin shout? And I think that always kind of leads me down that sort of narrative non-fiction sort of line.
Ideas are everywhere, aren't they? And then being curious about the world is really good. Yeah, so to answer your question, Kerry, we decided to send a variety. And generally, whether if you're at the stage where you're submitting, I think generally that's quite a good thing to do, because you can show how versatile you are if you are. I mean, if your sort of strength is writing in rhyme, and it's okay to send all rhyming texts. But in your instance, we had a selection to show what you could do. So Jota says, do you want our most polished text? Not necessarily. I think what we really want is the idea. So we purposely are asking for just one submission per person so that you can send us the text that you think needs to be out into the world. So if it's not 100% polished, that's what the mentorship will hopefully do, and that's what an editor will do later down the line. So what we're really looking for is that sort of idea that hasn't been done that needs to be in a bookshop. So I guess get it as polished as you can, as much as you can do, so that we can really see the idea. That would be my advice, I think. We've talked about what made the submission stand out. That was Lucy's interesting character, her flawless rhyme, and the fact that you managed to sort of, you had your sort of core controlling idea running through your story, but you had different themes of environmental and also sort of being judged. In terms of submitting for the mentorship, is there a subject or message you prefer to see? Really? No, I think annoyingly, I can kind of see why editors and publishers and agents say we don't know what we're looking for until we've seen it. I don't want to restrict you in any way. I think write the things that you think haven't been done that need to be, or that you think need to be picture books. Is the story with a character blowing out birthday cake candles acceptable in the aftermath of COVID? So, yeah, I feel like fingers crossed, we're kind of moving away from that COVID. I mean, I've been to Perth where they have blown out candles, so I think it would be. That's just my opinion. Tips for getting past the first hurdle of the blank page. Have you got any tips, Lucy?
I don't know. I mean, I tend to just read, not things that are necessarily related to children's books, but just sort of, yeah, reading. I get a lot of inspiration from my children as well. Yeah, reading interesting articles, listening to my children, seeing what's bothering them. Always quite interesting to talk to other parents about what's going on in their houses as well, and comparing notes, and yeah, try to play, get in touch with your inner child and see what comes out of that.
Yeah, they're good tips too. I like the one about talking to other parents about sort of bit of therapy for yourself, isn't it? Oh yeah. I think my tip for sort of getting off the blank page is, so you mentioned it too, Lucy, when you said how you started picture books. I also started my first ever story on my notes page. We were waiting to pick up takeaway and I was in the car and I was like, oh, I've always wanted to do that. Maybe I'll just start now. Nothing else to do. So I literally pulled up the notes pages on my phone and began my first story there. But I still do that now. I mean, A, because I'm often short of time and often, I get to the end of the day and I go, I still haven't written that story and I've got a critique group coming up. So I just pick up my phone and start. And I find I'm less precious because it can't be good because it's on a phone. So I automatically am sort of just able to be more free and not quite so worry about making so many mistakes because it's just a draft on a phone. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. And then when I've got it to a good state on my phone, I then email it to myself and work on a blank page, but using those notes. So I guess I'm sort of tricking myself to thinking this isn't important, this isn't difficult, this is just fun, this is just messing around. And then when it comes to my Word document, I've already got something to start with. It's not a blank page, and I give myself, even if it's a really shoddy draft, I write the title if I know it, the my name, pitch line, I put header and a footer, and I just feel like yes, I'm ready. Like I'm taking this seriously now. And actually, if you even just put the spreads down, like numbers 1 to 12. You haven't got a blank page. So these are ways to trick yourself into thinking that it's not quite as difficult as we know actually it's quite tricky.
I can't remember who gave me this tip, but I can't remember where I was, but I remember somebody saying think of a character and then put them somewhere really unlikely and think if the juxtaposition just sparks something. So I think I had that in mind with this dung beetle. I was thinking, where would a dung beetle never be? A glamorous Oscars style award ceremony, and just see if like that sparks something
exciting. Yeah, brilliant. Lots of tips here. Then we have a question that was from Suzanne. She said, would you consider a non-fiction picture book text? Definitely. Yeah, they're one of my favorite kinds of books to write. I mean, I said Social Books my favorite too. I like kinds of picture books, but I do narrative non-fiction as well personally, so like Sunshine at Bedtime as an example. So yes, definitely would. What else have we got here? Do you also write a synopsis or a description of the theme? I think as long as you can sum up the story. I mean, people call them pitches or log lines. I just, sort of 1 to 3 lines, it would be great if you could summarize the text. So who was in your story, who's the main character, potentially what's going to happen, so what the conflict is, and then the takeaway. If you could give us a sense of those 3 things. It's also helpful for you. I think if you can summarize your story in 1 to 3 lines, you're more likely to be able to be focused when you're writing it and have achieved something clear at the end. So it could be longer, it could be less, but give us a sense of the story, character, conflict, and theme. That would be great. Some advice here from Lauren. For a blank page, I play with my toddlers and their friends to grab my inspiration. That's a good one. And author illustrator Tamsin, Tammy, would you like to see character design and thumbnails or just the story? I think if you've got some things, some sort of sketches as well, then yeah, add them in. I think we had a couple last year, submissions from author illustrators. I think they sent the text and then the art and other stuff as well. So if you could do that, that would be great because then we can look at the story, but then extra stuff. What advice would you give if you have 2 stories which are completely different, funny prose and poetic rhyme? Oh, yeah, this is a hard one, Karen. I mean, I probably would, if I really couldn't decide, I would ask somebody else's opinion, get them to vote. So if you've got a critique group or some family members, I guess ideally it'd be people who know picture books in terms of writing them, and maybe ask their opinion. Did you find the same thing, Lucy, or did you always know you were going to enter Doug?
No, I knew that he was the best to have, so I sent him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe I would think about the takeaway of the book. So is it something that hasn't been seen before? So how commercial would it be? How when a publisher or editor or Perry or I read this, which one is going to make us go, we've not seen this before. This feels really different, either because you're doing something a different way or because you're saying something different. And just make sure that there isn't anything comparable on the market, because we read over 100 picture books, and they all had fantastic things about them. Some of them were quite similar to things that were already on the market, and it wasn't because they weren't great picture books, but there was just something out there that was already doing a similar thing, and that was one of the reasons why we didn't take them forward. So I guess that's something to bear in mind. It's just to make sure that what you've got is extra special. If it is a topic that has been covered a lot, what would put you off, even if it has been approached in a new way, e.g. loss? I think the biggest issue, I guess, with writing, and I do this myself as well, so I'm talking from personal experience here. The biggest thing that I find hard about writing a social issue book is I have a really clear about what it is I want to say, and so I can be quite heavy-handed when I write it. So the first time I write a version of a book, I might be a bit too on the nose with the message, and I may have to, over several drafts, pull that back so that you don't feel like you're having a lesson, because no children don't want to be preached to. They can hear it. So I try and lighten that, so that if it was a book that was definitely covering something new, things that I would watch out for are, making sure that you're not being too didactic or sort of heavy-handed in the messaging. That would be one thing. Any other tips, Lucy, that you can think of?
No, I think maybe just choose the story that you like, rather than think about the writing, the style of the writing. Maybe think about the story that you love the best.
Yes, yeah, that's good.
The message that you love the best.
And we have a question here on the best places to find critique partners. Where did you find your tribe?
So I found some of my critique partners on that City Lit course. Some of them are here, I can see them. Hi guys. And I found some through Scooby. And actually, I've just moved house, and I was feeling a bit lonely, and I saw this lady on Instagram who is also a teacher and also has young children and also was writing picture books. And so I just sent her a message and say, hi, I've just moved here, and do you know any writing groups? And she said, no, but I'd love a writing buddy. And now we sort of critique with each other, which is just really lovely. So I guess you could, I've never made a friend on social media before, but it's been brilliant. So maybe, Scooby courses, and then just reach out to whoever you can find. People want to share their writing, and it's it's not really surprising, is it, that there are just a lot of really nice people in the world of children's publishing, because you would hope that people are nice, kind people who are, writing stories to make children's lives better. But no one will be unkind. So yeah, reach out to people.
Yeah, I think Write Mentor too. So that's what Tracy's
design. Write Mentor, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So there are lots of different lots of ways to find critique partners. It does take a while to find ones that you really trust, doesn't it? But I get a lot from giving critiques as well as receiving feedback on my work. It's kind of how I learned everything that I knew about picture books, was through critique groups. Yes. Log line, same as a pitch line. Yeah, I think just include something at the top that tells us about like a mini synopsis, a mini sort of summary of your story. That would be great. Lauren says that Lauren, Ian's, hopefully you've seen this, that they have a picture book group that are looking for new writers. So many great tips and podcast resources to look up. Is there a replay? I couldn't write them down fast enough. Yes, so there is a replay. I think Stuart said that a link will come your email, but if not, it will be on the Right Mentor YouTube channel as well, so you could have a look. So this will be up there for you to have another look at again. Great, we're up to date with all the questions, I think. Were there any other books that helped that you wanted to share, Lucy? Did you bring any other examples that you wanted to talk through?
Well, I'll do one last one, and this is one that I have a very shy child, and certainly when we moved house, she found the playground really difficult, and she just, you know, stands and sort of watches everybody else playing, even though she's desperate to sort of get into the game. And I found this book, The Bear Who Stared by Duncan Beadle, and it's just a really helpful story, showing a shy child who struggles a little bit with making friends, how actually all you need to do is smile, and that will give you a good in with people. And I thought that was just a really nice takeaway. Don't just stand there. People don't want to be stared at. If you're going to stand there, smile, and they might just invite you into the game. And I think that's really helped us recently. I've really enjoyed that one.
Lovely. Thanks, Lucy. You've got a great selection of books there. I think we've got one last question that's appeared, and that was from Susie. Can you submit a text that has been sent out to a recent competition, or one that you are planning to send out to competition? Yes, you can do. Yeah, will be fine. Because I think depending on where you are in your picture book journey, you might have other ideas that you want to work on. So in Lucy's case, we worked on Dung Beetle Dug, which was already at a pretty good standard. We used Perry's feedback to hone it and improve it slightly, but we used our sessions, didn't we, Lucy, to work on some of the other ideas that you had, and that's why we ended up with a submission package at the end. So yes, so you can send one idea, and we may end up working on others. Say it gets placed by a competition, then that's fine. Mark says, I write short stories for teenagers and from disadvantaged backgrounds, not picture books, but I write books that help. That's great. I think that I think there are lots of different ways to do books that help. My dream one day would be to expand books that help. So it's not just about picture books, but it's also about chapter books and middle grade and YA. Currently, I just haven't got the capacity to do all of that. And this mentorship is for picture books at the moment, because obviously with the involvement of Little Tiger, they published picture books, and that's, you know, we're working with Perry. So we probably wouldn't be looking for short stories in this case. But great that you're writing them. Yeah, more stories out in the world is a good thing. So I'm wondering if there are any other questions. Assuming that there aren't, I just want to thank everybody for coming along and for listening to our mentorship chat this evening. To thank Lucy for coming along and sharing about her experiences and favourite books. Hopefully, if you were undecided about whether or not to apply, Lucy will be able to testify that it was a nice mentorship and that you've got lots from it.
I mean, it was just a fantastic experience, and I learned a lot, and I achieved a brilliant goal. But also, you've been very kind, and I feel like I have a real champion in you. So thank you for all of your kindness and everything that you've done in the mentorship and outside of it, because it's been the most wonderful experience. And I feel like I've been set up for my next step. So thank you.
Well, I'll be first in line when the books come out for my signed copy. So Stuart has added a link somewhere in the chat. I just saw it pop up. A link to apply. So I'm going to add that to the website.